Have you ever been at work and someone is just getting on your goat and you've got to be good, you've got to be professional, and you're like, and you think, I'm calm, I'm not reacting, I'm reacting, and it's just building up and building, and they leave and you're stressed and angry, and if you're careful, you didn't say anything, but you're still left with all that yuck. Well, my guest today, Dr. Red Shoe, is going to talk to us about how to handle that so we don't get all twisted in a knot and we can do our work, get along, and stay calm and in control, which will also help us to do a lot of other things a lot better. And we are going to meet Dr. Red Shoe right after this. The strongest prison bars are in your head. Leaders and teams, it's time for a jailbreak. Welcome, 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 Dr. Red Shoe. Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year, and thanks for having me on. I'm delighted.
But she is what was that phrase that we said about you, that you are the bad behavior?
Misbehavior expert.
Misbehavior expert. And that's just brilliant. Dr. Red Shoe, Margarita, tell us about, well, I want to know everything, but let's not do that. Let's talk about we've only got half an hour. So how did you come to be called Dr. Red Shoe? And tell us a bit about what you do.
All right. So Dr. Red Shoe comes from when we left Castro's communist Cuba. It was a bit of an escape, but not dramatic. So escape sounds too dramatic, but we left. My father left a few days before, and then my mother left with the 4 Gurri children. And she was allowed to only bring 1 suitcase and $5 per person in the family. So she didn't like that. So she decided, well, at least I'm going to leave my way. And so she decided she's going to leave with red shoes to make a bit of a fashionable statement. They're not the most practical. So I started wearing red shoes many years later when my mother was dying as a happy old lady. And my audiences started noticing, and they started calling me Red Shoe Lady, Red Shoe Doctor. Finally, somehow Dr. Red Shoe landed. And there's a missing shoe, so I always tell everyone, because we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So Dr. Red Shoe comes from that. And then I have all these red shoes. You can see them on the shelf. Oh. And my name, Margarita Gurri, is hard to remember. So Dr. Red Shoe is easy. It's not about me. It's about the message. So the Red Shoe attitude is about we're all accountable. It's up to us how we decide to manage ourselves and others. There's no excuse to be rude or yucky in any way.
I love it. I love that so much. And were you always in the counseling psychology field? How did you get into that?
Well, I decided at some point in my life that I was going to become a psychologist. When I was 9 or 10, I was in the rain on my bicycle, and I decided, I better get dry. So I went inside the library in Miami in Coral Gables. And I was walking up and down the aisles, and a book fell on my head, and it was Freud's interpretation of dreams. So I was reading it. I went home and I was reading it, and my father said to me, I'm so glad you're reading one of my books. I said, no, Papi, I'm reading the book from the library. And he looked at me and he said, do you know what I do? I said, yeah, you're a doctor. He said, well, come to my office and explain. Well, it turns out my father was a Freudian training analyst. And I know, can you tell?
Oh,
you smell it on me. And so we got into some delicious discussions about human nature, human beings. And he said, these are my shelves, borrow whatever you want. So I got enthralled with the idea of psychology and then became a psychologist and been working with clients and patients since 1980 and became a psychologist in 83. So I've been at it for a little bit.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to have met you. And by the way, if you are watching, please like, subscribe. And if you'd like to make a comment, pop your comment in and I'll see it and we'll pop it up on the screen. And if you have any questions, maybe you've got a curly question for Dr. Red Shoe. I have to call you Doctor. I know that we're friends and you're Margarita, but I just feel the need. I just have to call you Dr. Red Shoe. So
whatever you're comfortable with, Margarita's
fine.
As
long as I'm not Dr. Handcuffs. So, you know,
Well, now that makes me want to call you that, but that's a separate issue.
so yeah, we've had some interesting chats about that, and that's what I love about this show is meeting such interesting people and just accessing your brain. So we are about the shift and lift mindset, and that's what you do for people. So
Yes,
let's
ma'am.
let's get into how, like, primarily workplace, but these skills will work at home as well. But
They work in the boardroom, the bedroom, the community, anywhere. And
that's right.
the whole point of difficult people is this. All right, everyone, look this way and then look this way. If there isn't anyone difficult there, it's your turn. So the whole point is that difficult people are everywhere. Sometimes it's you, sometimes it's me, right? Never, no, then you're in denial because we all are difficult. Even if I'm not being difficult, you might perceive me as difficult because I said no to you. And so difficult is sometimes in the eye of the beholder. And one of the gifts we can give ourselves is to get curious when someone says they're offended by us or when they offend us. And think, well, this is an interesting learning point. So after many years of dealing with frustrated, cranky people, I decided to teach people a fun way of looking at difficult people without blame and shame, right? Because people get so embarrassed. So I created characters. There's 7 of them. There's the super dog, and he knows how to communicate well. So instead of personality styles, I decided to make him communication styles because we can change communication styles better. And his motto is, we can do it. He's very team oriented, and he's the right way. And this is, and I say he because he in some ways people call him he, but is actually made after my dog, Olivia. And then there are 2 aggressive types. There's the diva, and then there is the bully pirate. And they're aggressive, and we can talk about it. And the diva likes to say to people, ta-da, I'm here. And the pirate bully says, I win, you lose. And we've all had either these diva moments or bumped into people who are divas. See, these are the aggressive types. And then we have one passive type. Ta-da! And he is the camo groundhog. And his motto is, please let me go unnoticed. He's the most varied. There's so many reasons why people might be on the down low. And we can talk about that some if it seems to come up. He's the least problematic in some ways. Then there are 3 that are passive aggressive. There's the eye-rolling canary, whose motto is, this is stupid. They're my favorite when I'm doing a consultation or training, because when the canary, who generally they notice people really well, and they notice what's happening, and they're like the first in a canary in a mine shaft. They're the first to smell the bad air. So if they're rolling their eyes, I go, something's afoot. What is it? And it helps me be excited. Then we have, and this was the South Dakota Guard came up with this one. This is the laughing hyena. And it says, now this is funny. And these are the people who come in and disrupt with jokes. We like them, but we can manage them. And then the last passive aggressive is the most difficult one, the pink, fluffy, biting bunny. This is the one that if you have
hang on.
Sure.
Say that again slowly. The
pink, fluffy, biting bunny. And
like every 9th grader.
The Florida Air and Army Guard helped me name this one, pink, fluffy, biting bunny. There was a guy who was like 7 foot tall, and I assigned his table to be the bunny, and he ended up taking the role. And it was so funny that he was this. So I have handkerchiefs that they put on whichever way they want. But the pink, fluffy, biting bunny's motto is, I can help you fail. So one of the goals of dealing with difficult people, including ourselves, is to understand, why are they this way? I mean, what do they get out of it? And then the question is, what do they need from me? So, for instance, the diva might just need attention. So how do you bring out the best in each character? You find out what they need and you give it to them. Now I have a tip sheet that I'm offering everyone. It's got some solutions. And I've got a worksheet that you can work out by yourself or your team. They're on my website, but Trish, you have the links.
Yes, I'm going to do that. And I want to pause there too, because you've made me think about, there are people at work who are those different personalities. They may fit into the middle part of the bell curve or the quadrants, whatever you want to do. And by the way, if you're watching this, let me know. Have you worked with people? Do you recognize these characters? You might have called them different names. If you're watching, have you worked with those people? Maybe don't if they're right next to you at the next, and they know what. But it's so true. There's that passive aggressive. It's that mean girl syndrome, and I've met middle-aged men who are mean girls.
Yes, I agree with you. It's non-binary, to be sure.
So how I'm going to put your website on the ticker here across so people can take notice of that. But when you say give them what they need, and I talk about similar things where if you've got a micromanaging manager that irritates the heck out of you, then give them way more than what they would expect so they're happy with you, which is a little different to what if what they need seems to be mean to others and put them down and so on. Like I'd love to get
a micromanager sometimes just is anxious and doesn't really know how to lead well. And maybe they don't have faith in people, but maybe they're just anxious. So one of the questions I always have with a micromanager is, how do I help them lead well? And sometimes I'll ask ahead, let me make sure, is this what you said? This is the task list. In a meeting, I might make sure that somebody is assigned. If I'm consulting with a micromanager, make sure that someone in his meeting, each meeting, can write down all the tasks that need to be done. And then the micromanager can feel relaxed because it's all written down. Now, some micromanagers don't know they're micromanagers, and it's okay. They can learn or not learn. But either way, we can treat them with dignity and respect and maybe help them to manage us differently.
Yep.
And that's the hard part, because we have to remember not to get angry. It's annoying to have somebody micromanage, and it's disruptive, and it certainly does not bring out the best in a team.
No, and what we want to do is it's easy for us to demonize people.
Yes.
They are one of those. But there are people out there who will gaslight you, and they're very dangerous, and they may be in charge of you, or they may be someone in your team who is setting people off. And so there's a balance there, isn't there, between whether you're part of the team, or because you may not be the leader, or you may be the leader. And something that I've been learning the last couple of years is to do with boundaries, and I'd like to get better at tactful boundaries so that they don't.
Oh, good. We can come up with some scenarios and we can practice them. Good.
Let's do that. And I also, before we do that though, I want to make sure that I show everybody your website. So we're going to go here to drredshoe.com. This is what the website looks like. Look at her. Look at her on stage. Look, commanding.
I know.
Crowd. And she does that on computer now if it's not in person. And she has a podcast that is called The Rabbi and the Shrink. I'll just have a quick click on there. So we'll have a look at that.
It's about everyday ethics, and I do it with Rabbi Yonason Goldson.
Wonderful. So
we have a lot of fun. We have some great guests.
Yep. So subscribe and listen to that as well, and that'll be good. And now I'm also going to put some links in the chat, which will lead to your giveaways.
Good.
Which will take us to, I've got these pages ready. So I'm just going to, actually I'll copy and paste them both. Copy, and we'll go to the comments. I will, I'll put them in the comments, and then they will go in the chat. And I will also put them, I'm going to have to do these one at a time. Okay. So you can.
Did you want me to copy them and put them in the chat?
No, doing it now.
Oh, okay.
So there we are. It's in the chat. So, I mean, I don't really need to put it on the screen because you will see it in the chat. And I will also put it in I will go back to the description so that you don't have, because sometimes with videos, you need to scroll through to see the comments. And that's the other one, but you don't have to worry about that there. It's in the chat. You can click on it. And what it will take you to is one of them will take you to this page, and
that is my tip sheet for
tip
how
sheet.
to understand and briefly manage some overview tips on how to manage each type,
Brilliant.
including if it's you.
Yep. And then the second one, color me difficult to bring up, or is that the same one? Oh no, here we
No,
go.
the second one looks the same, but it's a worksheet. It's got spaces to fill things out. It makes it more personal.
I love it. That is so good. Love that. So those are there, and after the broadcast, I will. It's not here on your Trish Jenkins Facebook. Sorry, Evie. So you're looking.
Evie.
Hey Evie, thank you for joining us. It's not here. So my Trish Jenkins hasn't gone live. Should have. It's my personal page, not my business page. Is it not showing live? Okay. Well, Dr. Redshoe, would you like to keep talking, and I will check my Facebook page. So
Sure.
I'll let you talk for a bit. I'll fill the screen with you. Thank you, Evie, for letting us know.
And if anyone has questions, I can address those as well.
Yeah.
One of the things we're dealing with in this COVID era is that people are exhausted. They've about had it. They've had it with all the changes, with all the sickness, all the loss, all the rules. They're burned out, and some leaders have been very good about rising to the occasion and providing more support and whatever, and some don't. And so one of the things we want to look at is helping our leaders to lead. Like, what do you need? And being pretty clear about that. Tempers have been flaring, and I think sometimes we're getting used to people being cranky. I call it COVID cranky, and they're burned out. So one of the things that a lot of people are doing is I have a friend, Kevin O'Brien, and he's a yoga guy. So I've started to invite him to do yoga videos and get people to do some yoga when they're stressed out, like before a big meeting or a big conference or whatever. Be creative, music, fun things. The more creative we can be and maybe surprise and delight people, the more maybe crankiness is not our first response. And I think that there's some research. There's a global employees, Professor Jeff Polzer was talking about, that we're actually working harder if we're working at home. And maybe now we're learning how to do that differently. But we have to look at our environments. So one of the questions we ask is, why do we misbehave? And I think there's three major reasons. Because we're being altruistic, and I'll explain it. Because there's delicious temptations in this world, and because we're vulnerable, whether it's individual or an organization or family vulnerability, whatever it is. So the crisis fueled temptations, we often want to be in a hurry to get things done. Maybe we don't know what to do. So there's tension, and we have to learn how to communicate and provide clarity. We have to look at how are we communicating verbally and non-verbally. And now with this new hybrid, some people are in the office, some people not, there's become like a second-class citizen, that the people who are home maybe aren't getting the same quality communication. So we have to find ways to up our game and make that happen. So with burnout, it's easy for people to get resentful and angry and scared. And then they're more likely to misbehave. So I don't know. Let me see if we have any comments here. Do we have any comments?
Okay, well, here we go.
Okay,
thank you for that. And what Evie was asking about was putting the links in the Facebook page as well, which I just did, and I also put it in the so the video is going live.
Thank you, Evie. And Evie asked, do I hit them with a chancletta? And I'm going to say, Evie, because in many Latin countries, I'm from Cuba, the chancletta is pow. That you can. Obviously we're not really going to hit them, but in many organizations, I give them this, and with this, they'll go, a chancletta event is going to happen. So everyone knows to calm down or do something different. You can use a sense of humor if you're not going to shame people, and it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
What situations do you have that you want me to address? Let's practice some boundaries.
Okay. Yeah. So what goes on? Here we go. So at home, here's one. How about talking to people about? Oh, here we go. Evie, she is hilarious, isn't she? And it's just great. Oh, look, very funny. So, and it is fun. So I hate to get too serious. So what about people who, things are very stressful now
Yes.
with the pandemic. And I know this, when someone watches this video in time to come, they'll think, what, it's not relevant, but it is relevant. An example might be that you might be talking to someone who has a different view on the vaccinations than you do, and maybe they are right into like their world is, that's what they pay attention to, and they constantly sending you articles and things that you really would rather not have. So I tend to just sort of ignore them. But that can get contentious, and it could be family, could be, especially if it's like, you're not invited to things or so. What about with that? These are your loved ones, but they feel very passionate about it.
So let's start. First off, we have to decide who we love. If we love someone, we will find a way to manage it. So let's say your loved ones don't believe in vaccines, or they do, whichever is the opposite of you. I'm not going to get political here.
Yep, me either.
And maybe they don't believe in masks. Or maybe they wear the mask, but they're not showing, right? I think you have to decide what's the goal. If the issue is your safety or the safety of the people you're in contact with, you have a vulnerable adult, children that aren't vaccinated, then there's no negotiation. So one of our dearest friends, they do not believe in the vaccines. And so they haven't gotten them. So we just haven't seen them because they have a lot of exposure. And we have two vulnerable people in my family. We had at one point talked about meeting and going hiking like far away. But the difficulties when you've got children and grandchildren, they don't follow the 6-foot rule particularly well, even if you tie pool doodles to them. I mean, they just don't. So I think if life and death is an issue and safety, then you react one way, but you don't argue. We say, oh, I'm so sorry, we can't see you. Let us know if you decide to change vaccines and vaccine idea, and then we'll get back to you. I think you have to just be clear on the boundary without arguing, without putting anyone down. If it's a family discussion and they want to send you stuff, you can say, Aunt Batilda, thank you for sending me all these things, but you know what? I think I'm overloaded on that, and please remove me from your list. But I look forward to hearing about your favorite new article the next time we meet. And throw her a bone and then ask. So the hardest part when we disagree with someone is to really listen. So recently we took a long road trip, and I asked different people in the rest stops, hey, so what is your area doing about masks and vaccines? How is it affecting you? What do you think? And they said things that I vehemently disagreed with, but I just listened. So then what happens then? Do people support you? They don't. I just ask questions. I just listen. The hard part is the temptation to be the superhero and to always be right. Maybe the diva and have to be right all the time. You're wrong. No, I mean, they're entitled to their opinion, whether you agree with it or not. But safety is up to us. We cannot argue about safety. So you listen differently depending on the impact that you're addressing.
Well, that's right. And things are not as cut and dried as people think. So,
no, they're not. It's complicated.
It is. You got two people in the same family, and one of them refuses to get vaccinated, and it's their decision. It's like, hey, it's up to me. If I get sick, I do that. But what they can forget is that decision affects the people around them, and vice versa. So you've got to remain. Like, I love what you said at the start, which was remember who you love. Remember that you love them.
Yes.
And that's the tricky part, because we can feel like you're not doing this means you don't love me enough.
Yes.
Because if you love me, you would. And that's about me and my needs, instead of being about, I love how you've turned it around to ask the questions so that you need to put yourself in their shoes. And this is the thing, if someone's deceived, either way, so I'm not going to get, but they're deceived. They fully believe what they believe, and it's like two religions coming, and not working it out, and it's yeah. So the
Or like
important thing
vegans
is
at a
like,
beef barbecue, right? I mean, you have to find respectful ways to handle differences. And isn't that the richness of life? I mean, everyone's so different. So one of the difficult things though is to remember that sometimes people are telling us what they think because they love us. They're trying to protect us because they know we're wrong. Like um, when I was a young mother, I was nursing, and one of my aunts was saying, "Ay, pobrecita, the baby's gonna die because the baby is not gonna get enough nourishment." Well, the baby is nice, big, and fat, and happy. And at first, I started to argue because I was foolish and prideful, and then I realized, Thea, maybe you're right, but since this is how I'm doing it, I'm sorry that it's hard for you. I'll go in the other room or whatever. I mean, and I'll let you finish the conversation with people and let me know what you decide. And I don't have to be a part of it all the time, right? But I also don't have to argue. And my feelings were hurt at first. So hurt feelings makes us angry a lot of times because anger is sometimes a default emotion. Really, it was hurt, but it's easy then to get cranky about it. But letting people know that, thank you for letting me know. I really appreciate it. I'll give it some thought. And end of story. Now, would you like a sandwich? May I help you with this? How about a cup of tea? I love a cup of tea. Cup of tea is one of my favorite polite shut ups. Who wants tea?
who
And
wants
then I
to?
go and do the tea. Oh, coffee, good. The more I have to do, the longer I can be away. I come back and the atmosphere may be changed or not, right? So the
That's
trick is, how do you graciously set the tone for your boundaries? So you have
that's
another
so
boundary
good.
question for us? I know we're almost out of time.
Yeah, I know. And Karen's just appreciating that this is a
I
great
can.
topic.
Thank you.
It is everybody, but sometimes here's I don't see a question in the comments, but I have one,
All right.
and that is around. That's easy to talk about and to remember when we're sitting in a nice air conditioned room and we're having this discussion. But how do you remember it? Are there things we can do to remember in the moment? Because once we start getting worked up, it's
Yes.
harder to remember and pull back.
Yes. I have the secret of the universe. There's two
Okay,
parts. The first part
right.
is Schmet, and the second part is prepare, prepare, prepare. So let me talk about Schmet. I like the movie Spaceballs, and they have May the Schwartz be with you. So I decided to have May the Schmet be with you. So
Schmidt.
in self-care gives us that moment of the platinum bite tongue so that we don't say the things on our mind, right? And that we don't do
Mhm.
the eyes and, have have a nasty approach. So Schmet is make sure you slept enough and well. You don't
Ah,
watch screens when you're falling asleep. Have compassion, not just for other people, but for yourself, right? Now, I'm not asking for empathy, which is supersized compassion, where you feel what the others feel. I'm asking for compassion. Have a sense of humor with yourself and others, but not the mean. If you have to look both ways like that before you tell a story, it's not nice. Don't do it.
oh, I like
Um,
that. If you
yeah,
have to
and
look
then
both
meaning.
ways before you tell something,
Oh, yeah, it's got to be nice. And then meaning.
that's yeah.
Make sure that your life has meaning. Why are you on earth? What were you put on earth for? And if you don't know, be kind to one person a day, and at least you're on the way to solving it. Show gratitude and kindness, and you're on the way to finding your life purpose. The next
Brilliant.
is exercise. Now, you can just exercise at home. We do the salsa when we're cleaning, whatever it is you're doing. It doesn't have to be fancy. And then the last is touch. And we touch people in the hearts and in the minds and in the souls. But there's also physical touch, except for in times of COVID. And then you can touch carefully, and then there's lots of gel and antibacterial gel afterwards. But so the whole idea is Schmet, and the Schmet be with you. If you're going to an event, whether it's work or a family reunion, make sure you've primed your graciousness by Schmetting. Be ready to face people. Now, the other part had to do with prepare. Before an event, a few days before, ask yourself, who am I dreading seeing? Who am I afraid to
Yeah,
see? Who am I
so
angry
good.
at? And make these lists.
Oh,
And then
I,
ask yourself, how are you going to handle them?
I just love that.
Now,
And
if you go to my YouTube page, I've
mhm.
got the Healthy, Happy, Yummy, the holiday prep. I made a gift for everyone, a holiday series. It's free. And I made
Okay,
a 7-day action plan for dealing with difficult people. And then asked my
okay,
friend who's a chef, Chef Dwayne, to do one for healthy, yummy food. And then my friend Kevin O'Brien?
Let me put that while you're talking, and
Okay.
also thank you, Noni, for your contribution. That it is good, and because what I want to do is put your YouTube in the comments as well, so that
Okay.
comes up.
All right.
And your YouTube is
It's just YouTube.com / Dr. Red Shoe, drredshoe.com.
Yep, that's what's going to come up.
Yeah.
And
So
I'll
just be prepared and then come up with some polite shut-ups. So whether you're smiling or you kiss them or thank you for sharing or I love you, I've missed you, or how's your garden? In our family, we tease, look, there's the Pope, because, we're Catholic. Where's the Pope? And that shuts everyone up. So every family can have some jokes that say it's time to change the channel, as my grandchildren sometimes do, they hit the remote, like, next.
There you
So
go.
whatever people are doing that help you is what I would do.
Brilliant.
All right.
Just brilliant. Thank
That's
you.
it. And just
so
remember
much.
that graciousness is the key to success and happiness.
It absolutely is. And there's
my YouTube, and you can see in
YouTube
the
there.
first one of the
And
recent ones, or you can see some of the Rabbi and the Shrink podcast. And if you go
that'd be
down,
great.
I created sections, and one of them is the Healthy, Happy, Yummy. And so I created a project called Healthy, Happy, Yummy Project to give people information for free on how to live a healthy, happy, yummy life.
Brilliant. I love it. And there you are, and you've got your things going there. I wanted to make sure that we showed that.
Thank you, Trish.
Dr. Red Shoe.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, look. Oh, he's Noni. Noni. By the way, Noni Bird Wright is going to be a guest of mine because she was on the there's a TV series that has been out called quickly, Noni. It's called oh my goodness, it's just escaped my attention. Quick, write it in, Noni. The TV show.
I'm going to Google it right now.
Yeah, well, she was on the set, and it was the one. It's an app, crowdfunded. Oh my goodness, I should have been more prepared with that. But it's about what happened after Jesus, and it's the whole story, but told as a backstory. So this is probably more for the Christian community or for people who are historically.
Oh, the Chosen, she says. Okay,
the Chosen. That's it.
I was Googling it, and Noni, you're all over the place, so I never got to the Chosen.
She's in it, and she's part of the documentary. And cool. I saw her name in the credits, and I contacted her and said, "Oh my goodness!" And we chatted. She's going to be a guest, and and her story. So she's also an author on dealing with trauma. So you guys are a good connection. But
I look forward to hearing. I'm going to Google you and study you. I think that's wonderful. I deal with a lot of trauma. I'm a psychologist, and I often talk about people problems. And there's been a lot of trauma lately with military and workforce and whatever. So I can't wait to learn from you, Noni. That'll be nice.
It'll just be great. And I'm so pleased with what we've done today. Yes. And I love having you on. I love having professionals come on because I often check in with what I tell people, because there's only so much that I'm allowed to tell people with what I have. And yes, you're welcome, Noni. That's great.
Well, and you run a beautiful program. I'm very impressed with it. And as you know, you and I met on Zoom, and we connected right away. And I thought, what a delightful human. I have a collection of delightful humans now that I'm old. And you were one of the recent ones, so it's nice.
Well, that's great. Well, Dr. Red Shoe, Margarita, I have been greatly enlightened by what you've shared. It's also confirmed that I'm on the right track with what I share.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
You have delighted our audience, and an animated guest, very easy to interview, and I so appreciate you, and you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, thank you. And I really appreciate everything you do. You do good work. And I wish you all the best. And it looks so pretty. You do such a nice job with that. It's very nice.
I wore a little bit of red. I
noticed. I appreciated it.
So very, very good. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our show. By all means, catch up with Dr. Red Shoe. Find those links. I have put them in the chat. I will also put them in the intro part on LinkedIn. I've done it for Facebook and wherever else it will go. YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. These are tools that will help you to be happier at work this year, because people are compassion fatigued and they're exhausted. And when you're run down, like with your acronym, when you're run down, your tolerance, your patience, your grace runs low too. So let's make this a year of restoration, of reinvigoration, of relationships, and handling people gentler but more skillfully, so that they don't run over us, but we don't have to run over them either. So thank you so much for being on our show, Dr. Margarita. It's been an absolute pleasure.
May the schmet be with you all.
May the schmet be with you all. I love that. So, so good. And we will go out with a bang.